Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Easy Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Mr. Bam Zabadaraja Sto Tejata Sisi Siddhanta Sasita Guru Prabhupada ki Tora Premanandi. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Isn't it so nice to come together and chant Hare Krishna? That's what devotees are good for. Satam Prasangam Amavirya Sambhada. Talks about Krishna in the association of dedicated devotees become especially sweet and powerful. And of course, according to the level of the devotees, that affects the receptivity of what's going on. When they're just bhajana kriya, impetus to engage in emotional service, or nartyavriti, becoming free from all unwanted desires, and on up. So we all have a responsibility to each other, so that each of us contributes to the other's well-being by tending to our own Krishna consciousness. We're in this as individuals, and we're in this as a group. Of course, you have to fly your own plane, meaning you come into this world alone and you leave alone. But the association of devotees is an eternal asset. Andhra Chanaseri Bhakti. Janame Janame Eya. Narrative Basta, of course, is birth after birth. I just aspire to be in the association of devotees. So we're looking at Caitanya Caritamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 11, the expansions of Lord Nityananda, text, which number? 33. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Navadvipe Purushottam Pandita Mahashoy Nityananda Name Yanra Mahon Madahoy. Navadvipe Purushottam Pandit Mahashoy Nityananda Name Yanra Mahon Madahoy. Navadvipe Purushottam Pandit Mahashoy Nityananda Namayana Mahan Madahoy Navadvipe Purushottam Pandit Mahashoy Nityananda Namayana Mahan Madahoy
Purushottam Pandit Mahasoy Nityananda Namayanga Navadvipe Purushottam Pandit Mahashoy Nityananda Mother
Vaishnavis. Navadvipe Purushottam. Purushottam of Navadvip. Pandita Mahashoy, a very learned scholar. Nityananda Name, in the name of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Yanra, whose Maha Unmada, great ecstasy, Hoy becomes. Translation: Purushottam Pandit, a resident of Navadvip, was the 8th Gopala. He would become almost mad as soon as he heard the holy name of Nityananda Prabhu. Purport: it is stated in the Caitanya Bhagavata that Purushottam Pandit was born in Navadvip and was a great devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. As one of the 12 Gopalas, his former name was Stoka Krishna. We'll read a few more verses since they're short. Balarama Dasha Krishna Prema Rasa Spadi Nityananda Name Hoy Parama Unmadi. Balaram Das always fully tasted the nectar of love of Krishna. Upon hearing the name of Nityananda Prabhu, he would become greatly maddened. Maha Bhagavat Yaruna Kavichandra Yanhar Hidaye Nitya Kore Nityananda. Yadunath Kavichandra was a great devotee. Lord Nityananda Prabhu always danced in his heart. Purport: in the Caitanya Bhagavat Madhya Kanda, chapter 1, it is said that a gentleman known as Ratnagarbha Acharya was a friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father. They had been residents of the same village. Ratnagarbha Acharya had 3 sons, Krishnananda, Jiva, and Yadunath Kavichandra. Om Agana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunditam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Caitanya Caritamrita presents the glories of the eternal characteristics of the living force, which is eternal. It presents the activities of the spirit, soul, and perfection. Krishna himself, as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, is showing by example how to taste the spiritual world even while within the material world. Why this list of associates of Mahaprabhu, of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, and so forth? Why not just we hear about Krishna and hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? When we think like that, or when we minimize the importance of this list of associates, it's because of our impersonal contamination. Krishna is never alone. That Krishna is perfect and complete. And of course, you know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, more particularly Radha Krishna combined. The energy is always present with the energetic source, just like the sunlight, the sunshine is always present with the sun. Why should you want Krishna or Lord Chaitanya to be alone? You don't want to be alone. Everyone wants nice, loving, heartwarming relationships, right? Why should Krishna or Sri Krishna Chaitanya be alone? The reason why we have this desire for wanting to be in a reciprocal relationship is because we're parts of the Supreme, and the Supreme has that desire. Of course, when we try to establish relationships on the material platform, those relationships are just playthings in the hands of the illusory energy, just toys in the hands of the three modes of material nature. And so sooner or later we'll be disappointed. It's just a question of time. Even if the relationships last a lifetime, which is doubtful these days in terms of material relationships, even if they last a lifetime, you'll be devastated at death. I don't know if you've ever talked to someone, or ever heard from some old-fashioned couple that have been together for 50, 60, 70 years. Anyone ever done that? It's getting increasingly rare. Maybe your grandparents, but they're probably gone by now. But in prior generations, it happened. It wasn't so uncommon. I know in my mother's case, her second marriage lasted over 50 years. Her first marriage broke up not to her fault. Her husband's guru was Hugh Hefner. And she was a Christian. So obviously there was some incompatibility. But her second marriage lasted 50 years. And then her husband passed away before he passed away at 90. She's still alive at 94. And you would think, well, you had a good run, 50 years, peaceful, stable household life. So, count your blessings and leave it at that. But it doesn't work in that way. It's like human psychology doesn't work in that way. When you lose what you had, you're devastated. I'm all alone. Every day is empty. In many cases, such lifelong partners who are left as widows or widowers, they pass away shortly thereafter. I know one example in New Zealand. A devotee living there, the parents were in America. Her parents were in America, and her father died. And so she flew from New Zealand to Los Angeles to attend the funeral. And then 2 weeks later, she had to go back because the mother died, because the mother couldn't live in separation, couldn't live alone. So that is the nature of material relationships. Therefore, as we were explaining the other day, when we think of spiritual life and being spiritual, we think that means impersonalism, no relationships, because we're frustrated over many lifetimes. You think you've been frustrated just from this one lifetime? You can see all around you just the havoc present in just this one lifetime of trying for stable, fulfilling relationships. More and more as the younger generations, those in their teens and 20s, they come to bhakti burnt to the crisp with relationships. Abuse, exploitation, abusing oneself, abusing others, trying desperately to grab the happiness that everyone else seems to have, and just becoming frustrated and bitter in the process. So it would seem natural that spiritual life means no relationships. But then we find out, Rasovasa, Krishna is the ocean of all relationship flavors. And Krishna is beckoning to you as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Come reestablish your relationship. We know there are 5 basic rasas, although the Vaishnavacharyas focus on 4. They don't, as you know, consider Chantaras to be so significant. Knowing there's not much need to even mention it. It's appreciation of the greatness of God. But that stage doesn't last long if you're progressive in your spiritual life, because appreciation of the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead leads to service. And as soon as you start thinking about service and doing service, that's dasya prema. That's relationship with Krishna in servitude. So Mahaprabhu came to revive the awareness of all 5 rasas, but as you know, he particularly specialized in Madhurya Ras, conjugal loving relationship with Krishna. So you can expect in bhakti that there's so much emphasis on relationships. Relationships with other devotees, relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nityananda has his associates who are generally in friendship rasa. They're Gopalas. They're 12 main Gopalas. And they appear in Gaur Nitai Lila as associates of Nityananda. There are some, you'll read in this chapter about the expansions of Nityananda. There are some who are in both camps, Mahaprabhu's camp and Nityananda's camp. There's always that fine print in the Shastra presentations. But generally speaking, the main associates of Nityananda Prabhu are in Sakya Ras. They're in the rasa of friendship. And Mahaprabhu specializes in having associates who are in the Madhurya Ras, conjugal Ras. Although there are some who, like Murari Gupta, who was a devotee of Lord Ramchandra. You may recall one purport in Caitanya Caritamrita Adi Lila, where Srila Prabhupada explains the progressiveness of bhakti. When he quotes the song, Gauranga Bolite Have Kulaka Sharir, Hari Hari Bolite. When will my eyes shoot out tears when I chant the name Gauranga? When will my voice choke up? Akabe Nitai Chand, Karanahoive, Samsara Vasanam, or Kabe Tuchahabe. Upon being awakened by Lord Chaitanya, then Nityananda becomes pleased with me. And Nityananda, please, we beg him, he frees you from material desires. So those material desires are insignificant in their presence. Insignificant. It's like, what happens to your whole life when a fly lands on your shoulder? Do you fall apart? No, it's so insignificant. So generally, those devotees who start out being attracted in friendship, servitude, or vatsalya praying, parental love of God, they are attracted to Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya. But then upon becoming focused on Mahaprabhu, they can be elevated to Madhurya praying, Madhurya Rasa. This is how the progressiveness works. So this list of Nityananda's associates describes many extraordinary personalities, persons who would, if they offered obeisances to any other stone than a Shalagram Shila, the stone would shatter. Or one would race out into the jungle and capture tigers and slap tigers in the face. All of them were just delirious with love of Krishna. And as soon as they heard the name Nityananda, they would go mad. One had a whip, and whoever he touched with the end of the whip would become drowned in ecstatic love. You can just visualize what kind of sankirtan that would be. But these personalities are just totally out of this world. And so reading about their names, even short descriptions of them, elevates you in bhakti. So when you read Caitanya Caritamrita, just don't blaze through these lists like, okay, I don't know Purushottam Pandit, don't know much about him, Yarunandana Kavi Chandra. Okay, let's on with the show here. No, you should meditate on these names and the descriptions. Sometimes the descriptions are lengthy. Krishna appreciates it more if you appreciate his pure devotees than even you're appreciating him. Krishna is never alone, and he comes under the control of his pure devotees. So we should take their descriptions very seriously. And that's why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has given you such extensive lists. Lord Nityananda is the most prominent branch to come out of the tree of Mahaprabhu. And as we said, most of Lord Nityananda's associates are cowherd boys. So it's always fun reading who that associate of Nityananda was or is in Krishna Lila. Just like today we heard that Purushottam Pandit, a great devotee of Lord Nityananda, he's one of the 12 Gopalas in Braj Lila, and his name was Stoka Krishna. So it's always interesting, the correlation between Gaura Lila and Krishna Lila. There are different types of friends of Krishna. You've read in the Nectar of Devotion, there's one category that's a coverall category, the Vayas. Within that category of the Vayasas, there are the well-wishers, the Sakas, regular friends, what would you say, regular lads? And then there's the Priya Sakas, confidential friends, and Priyanarmas, most intimate friends. So some of the well-wishers, some of the Sakas, the friends, they may be influenced by a bit of Dasya Prem and Vatsalya Prem, servitude and parental. Some of them are a little bit older than Krishna, and so they assume kind of a superior flavor sometimes, looking out for Krishna, protecting Krishna, with a tinge of parental concern, a tinge in their friendship love for Krishna. Whereas others, they're pure friendship, their rasa, with no tinge of parental or servitude. And they're about the same age as Krishna. And so they see themselves completely equal with Krishna. And then there are the Priya Sakas, confidential friends, and they have no hesitation in climbing on Krishna's shoulders, wrestling with him, playing sports with him, playing tricks on him. One cowherd boy will come and embrace Krishna, and then from Krishna's back, from behind Krishna comes another cowherd boy and puts his hands over Krishna's eyes. So obviously such cowherd boys have no traces of feeling anything less than equality with Krishna. And what about the Priyanarmas, the most confidential friends? They specialize in bringing to Krishna messages from the gopis. Not only messages that they whisper in his ears, but also letters. They bring betel nuts from the gopis and present them to Krishna. They bring garlands from the gopis and present them to Krishna. And there's always a lot of whispering going on, although none of the talks are very serious. And so Srimati Radharani and the gopis, they talk about these Priyanarma Sakas, these most intimate cowherd boys. Of these most intimate, there are two especially intimate, Subala and Ujjwala. So Srimati Radharani points out this Ujjwala. I'm trying to stay away from Krishna, and this Ujjwala comes canvassing on behalf of Krishna. He's so hard to resist. What can I do? I'm shy. I'm following my family dharma. I'm chaste. But these entreaties, these proposals coming from Krishna through Ujjwala, who can resist? So this is just a drop of what goes on in Krishna Lila. Yet these same cowherd boys appear in Gaur-Nitai's Lila. And so when you start relating the two, the Gaur Lila with the Krishna Lila, it's such a fascinating meditation. Because as you know, in their perfected stage, there are some devotees who specialize in Krishna Lila. That's their main focus. There are other devotees who specialize in Gaur Lila. And there are devotees who specialize in both. Specialized meaning their natural attraction. Because as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, in the topmost region of the spiritual world, Lord Chaitanya has his place and Krishna has his place. So devotees, according to their focus, go to either Krishna's place or Lord Chaitanya's place, but there's some who inhabit both because they're attached to both. So when you read about how so-and-so associate of Nityananda was such and such cowherd boy in Krishna Lila, you start to see the whole cohesive picture. One thought that should come to your mind is, who could make this kind of stuff up? That's the first thing I thought when I started reading the Krishna book. Oh, you have such a beautiful edition of Krishna book to distribute. That's the first time I ever saw it. We don't have such in us down under. We don't have such a beautiful version. It's a stunner. What do people think when they see that book? It's like a work of art. So when I first started reading Krishna book, the first thought that came to my mind is, who can make this up? It's so inconceivably cohesive, comprehensive, and detailed at the same time. So when you read Caitanya Caritamrita and you read about Lord Nityananda's associates, you become enlivened because you're hearing about Krishna's pure devotees who are so inconceivable in their, even though they're present within the material world. So please take advantage of how Cowherd Goswami is giving you these lists of devotees of all the associates of Lord Chaitanya. In Krishna Lila, the cowherd boys come from 3 camps. One camp is Nityasiddha, eternally, always with Krishna in his Braj Lila. But the friendship devotees don't have to be in Braj Lila, by the way. That Krishna has friends in Dwarka, like Sudama Brahmana, not to be confused with the Sudama of Braj Lila, but Sudama Brahmana. And Krishna also has friends in Hastinapur, the Pandavas. They're all nectar devotion lists, even Draupadi as Sakyaras. So Bhima, Arjuna, Yudhisthira, Sahadev, Nakula, they're in the relationship of friendship with Krishna. So it's not just Braj Lila. So all these different friends of Krishna, whether they're in Braj Lila, Dwarka Lila, or in Hastinapur, they come from 3 camps. They could be Nityasiddha, eternal associates of Krishna, or they could be elevated demigods, or they can come from the ranks of the sadhakas. So there's something special about the friendship relationship with Krishna because of the casualness, the sense of bhakti intimacy begins especially with Sakyaras, because Krishna's friends, they feel no hesitation in mock fighting with him, dancing with him, swinging on a swing with him, seated on couches with him, reclining on a bed with him. They feel no hesitation whatsoever. In fact, what happens when Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill? The cowherd boys are thinking, Krishna, you must be tired. Your hand must be tired from holding the hill. Just transfer it to one of us cowherd boys. Transfer the hill to the hand of one of us, and we'll give you a break. If you don't want to do that, then at least let us help you switch hands. Put the hill on the other hand. So they naturally think in that way. Some of them are very protective, as we said. Some of them are very protective about Krishna. When there's some danger, when some demon attacks, these protective cowherd boys, they're immediately concerned about how to protect Krishna more than they are thinking how to protect themselves. So these Gopa Leelas, these cowherd boy Leelas, are so attractive that even Brahma became bewildered. Brahma was already bewildered by the Aghasura situation, how Krishna marched into the mouth of the Aghasura demon and rescued the cowherd boys. So the Devatas, the demigods, they were observing that and they were fascinated. But that was just the beginning. Krishna and the cowherd boys had their lunch delayed because of the Aghasura. So you see the attacks of demons it's like a change in the drama. The attacks of demons cause the pastimes to shift from one phase to another. So Aghasura, he came right before lunchtime. And so the cowherd boys were playing in one way, and then there's Aghasura, so they have to deal with Aghasura, and that means a change of scenes. Now we play in another way. So Krishna points out, after the slaying of Aghasura, look at this spot on the bank of the Yamuna. The sand is so soft. Listen to the sounds in the air, the birds and bees. Smell the fragrance of lotus flowers coming through the breeze. This is an ideal place for our lunchtime pastimes. Yes, it sounds so fascinatingly attractive. It definitely makes you want to go there. So they put their lunch on various platforms, shall we say, eating platforms. Some would use rocks, others would use flowers, and they would all sit in circles facing Krishna. And each cowherd boy thought, Krishna is looking just at me. As for the others, Krishna can only see their sides or their back, but me, I get the full face-on vision. But that was Krishna's spiritual potency. He could make each cowherd boy think, Krishna's looking at me, especially. And the cowherd boys would boast to one another, my lunch is so superior, taste it, taste it. They would offer to other cowherd boys, Krishna, taste what my mother has made. Sometimes they would motivate a cowherd boy to take some food and take this, taste this, it's so wonderful. And then without the cowherd boy knowing it, the other cowherd boys would put a flour that tastes bitter mixed in with the food. And so then the unsuspecting cowherd boy would, oh, sure. And make, disgusted faces. And then the cowherd boys, to the one who gave such a food item mixed with flowers, they beat him. So they're always ready to fight. Always ready to have these make-believe fights. So this bank of the Yamuna is great for eating, for mock fighting, and for dancing. Those are the main activities of cowherd boys. So the demigods are watching this, especially Lord Brahma. And he's totally bewildered. Is this my worshipful Lord? This scene on the bank of the Yamuna looks so attractive and so casual, so informal, so beautiful. But is this my majestic Lord, the supreme controller? Oh no, you make a test. Lord Brahma was thinking not only to test whether this is actually Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead, unlimitedly full of all six opulences, but he was also thinking, let me display a bit of my mystic power, and we'll see what this Krishna can do. I'll take away the cowherd boys, and their calves, and what will happen next? Maybe Krishna will have to come and beg to me to give back the cowherd boys and calves. We don't know. That could be one option. Let's see. So this is why Brahma confiscated, he thought, the cowherd boys and calves. He wasn't sure whether this is the Supreme Personality got it because the scene was so intimate, so confidential. And he also wanted to try out his own mystic power in comparison to Krishna. Let's compete. I'll show my mystic stuff and let's see what, if this is Krishna, let's see what he might do. But as you know, Brahma changed his mind a split second later, after he confiscated what he thought were the original cowherd boys and calves. He changed his mind. It was like, let me change a page in this book. No, I won't. That's how quick Brahma changed his mind. He was thinking, I don't know if I should do this. I changed my mind, but that took a year of Earth time. So this is the Brahma Vimohana Lila, the bewilderment of Lord Brahma. So for today, focus on the scene on the bank of the Yamuna, which is the epitome of the cowherd boy relationship with Krishna. So friendly. Everyone wants a good friend. The beginning of this more intimate relationship with Krishna begins with Sakya praying, with friendship. Therefore, you'll read in Nectar Devotion, Srila Prabhupada comments at the end of the chapter describing fraternal loving affairs, that this cowherd boy scene it's very unique in terms of its intimacy with Krishna. Of course, that's just the beginning, though, but it's a very extraordinary beginning, because then comes Vatsalya praying, parental love of Krishna, which becomes even more intimate. And then, of course, the pinnacle is Madhurya Ras, the conjugal loving affairs with Krishna. So this is the glory of bhakti. And it's amazing how those same friendship associates of Krishna come in Gaurandhai Lila. And they create havoc in Nityananda Lila by bewildering everyone with pure love of Krishna. The Nityananda's associates are especially known for that. They're known for creating transcendental havoc in terms of whoever they come in contact with becomes mad with love of Krishna. And they do all kinds of unconventional things. One would jump in the river and be carried for 3 days by the waves. They had all kinds of inconceivable characteristics that they displayed. And then, of course, what to speak of Lord Nityananda himself. So we can be very thankful for Krishna's associates appearing in Nityananda's branch as cowherd boys, and of course appearing in Lord Chaitanya's branch as gopis, manjaris. So this is the fullness of the bhakti world. And the more that we lose our impersonalism and voidism and whatever traces are remaining of that, the more we can appreciate the glories of these Leelas. First, of course, you need a solid grounding in Bhagavad Gita. If you can't appreciate Krishna's relationship with Arjuna, how can you be ready for anything else? And then Srimad Bhagavatam introduces you to the attractiveness of Krishna and Krishna Lila in the 10th canto. And all that culminates in Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, which presents Radha Tattva as the pinnacle. Srimad Bhagavatam mentions Gopi Tattva, and Caitanya Caritamrita reaches its pinnacle in Radha Tattva. But we have to start at the beginning, which is what? Dehi nosmin yata dehi komanam yovanam ja. Yata dehantara plaptir diras tattvanamuyati. If you can't understand, you're not the body. There's the dehi, the possessor of the body, and the deha, the body. You can't understand that. How can you make any further progress? I like to quote how once Prabhupada had just given his umpteenth example of how we're not the body, a way of understanding that. And he said to devotees, you know how it is that I can always come up with these examples about how you're not the body? I can come up with such because I'm always thinking about it. So you might say, wow, resident of the spiritual world, ambassador from the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada is always thinking about how to preach, you're not the body. Yes, at the same time, he gives you such exquisite information like we find in Caitanya Caritamrita. So this expansiveness of bhakti is sometimes bewildering for not simply new devotees, but even established devotees, so to speak. They need to know what to focus on because sometimes they're not aware or understanding their own level of spiritual advancement and what's good for them, what's nourishing for them at their particular level. Because everything is there in Prabhupada's books. So I remember in Los Angeles, there were devotees who were only reading Prabhupada's books. That's all we had back then. There were no translations of this and no summaries of that. There was just Prabhupada's books. And so some devotees began to prematurely focus on the Gopi Lila sections. They would just read Krishna book or teachings of Lord Chaitanya and just focus on those sections. And they began to look down on other devotees and go, oh, you don't know what the nectar is. And so the situation got so out of hand that Prabhupada himself had to deal with it. And he explained, and this is a very important point, he explained that his books are for all levels of devotees, from the most neophyte to the most advanced. There's something in it for everyone. So he told these devotees who were prematurely focusing on the Gopi sections, he said, you're misreading my books. You might think, well, how could you go wrong just by focusing on Prabhupada's books? And yeah, okay, you're just reading the Gopi Lila sections, but it's just Prabhupada's books. He said, no, you're misreading my books. My books have something for the most neophyte and the most advanced Mahabhagavat. So we need to understand where we're at. And of course, now we have so many books besides Prabhupada's books. His disciples are writing books. So we need to know where we're at. And what is the nourishment for our particular level of bhakti. Are we meant to be relishing higher levels, or are we meant to be coming to grips with the so-called lower levels? We have to know how to be progressive in bhakti. And that means knowing where you're at and where you want to go and how to get to where you want to go. One devotee was telling me yesterday, I want to taste. I want to increase my taste. So therefore, I'm reading such and such a book by previous acharyas, very high and very lofty. So I said, well, okay, but do you know where you're at? I didn't say, don't read it. I said, first understand where you're at and what's good for your level. So fortunately, I pointed out, we have Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, which can put you in your place. It doesn't deny you access at the same, but it lets you know what's the menu for your particular level of spiritual advancement. And that's desperately required, because sometimes devotees think, well, I've been a devotee for 13, 15, 23 years. I'm ready for anything. But then you look at their lifestyle and you wonder, hey, how about chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita? So this bhakti growth is a very fascinating subject. How can you be tired of reading about Lord Nityananda's associates? Hearing about them is the portal to the spiritual world. So in Caitanya Caritamrita, you get all of that. You get Gauranga's associates, Nityananda's associates. You get the Gaur Lila entwined with the Krishna Lila. It's enough to keep you occupied for as long as Krishna wants you to stay in the material world. And then upon giving up this body, you can prepare for entering into these pastimes and being part of them. All right, any questions? Yes?
Krishna Maharaj, when we are starting developing love for Krishna, also we are starting pouring water to the Bhakti Lata Bija. And consequently, as a result, with Bhakti Lata Bija, the other bija also sprout with that, and Bhakti Lata Bija covers. So
doesn't have to. Can happen.
So in order to save Bhakti Lata Bija, with like other bija, so how we save that?
You have to weed your garden every day. You have to be mindful of gardens, because even in an ordinary garden, weeds happen. So you have to be careful. If you're not mindful of the weeds in the garden, they'll overpower. They'll grow, and there's a good chance they'll overpower the devotional creeper. So that's why the association of devotees is so necessary. Other devotees help to keep you on the straight and narrow. So you should always try to associate with devotees, not only on your own level, but also those who are at least a bit more advanced than you, because they motivate you to go to a higher level. And then at the same time, you should be merciful to devotees who are less advanced than you. In other words, bhakti is progressive. I notice often devotees don't understand the progressiveness of bhakti. They just think, well, been around for 13 years. I guess that's all there is to it. I am what I am, you are what you are. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. We're immersed in a deep ocean of progressive bhakti. The more you become aware of the medium that you're swimming in, the more you can orientate yourself properly. Anything else? Yes?
How can we see other devotees more as team members and less as competitors?
How are they competing? For the marathon or what?
Point distribution, for example.
Well, you try your best to do more than them while appreciating their glories. I remember when I was a book distributor and practically doing nothing for 2 years while going out every day, 7 days a week. But my goal was always, I'm going to be up there with Vaisheshika and all these others, I'll be up there. But all that's for Krishna's pleasure. I remember Vaisheshika telling me about his days at the Atlanta airport in the USA. That was the biggest book distribution spot. Huge airport. There would be 20 book distributors just in the same terminal, just because there are thousands of people coming. There's going to be a phalanx of 20 book distributors. And sometimes salesmen, because their salesmen are always flying here and there to meet clients, they would just stop and just watch. And they would come up to devotees and say, in all my life of sales, I've never seen anything like this before. And then they would often give the devotees their business card. Hey, I got a job for you. So there was such competition. I couldn't understand how intense the competition was. Even decades later, I think Vaisheshika was telling me last year how when super big day, Friday, Saturday was coming at the airport, some of the book distributors would sneak out of the temple earlier than the others, so they, they could get more points. So the idea was you're supposed to leave for the airport at 6:30 a.m. But some of the devotees, like Savas Prabhu, the temple president of LA, he would, without telling anyone, he'd sneak out with his car at 5 a.m. to get the post position in the race. So all that is for Krishna's pleasure. But if you think it's for your own name and fame, that's the problem. So yes, use your youthful energies for Krishna's pleasure. And then appreciate those who are doing more than you, and also appreciate those who are doing less than you. So just like the Cowherd boys, they compete with one another. Krishna, you're no big man at all. Watch how I jump on your shoulders. So sometimes amongst the book distributors, there's that kind of competitive spirit, but there's also team spirit. That's, how's the team doing? There are no individual stars. The team is the star. All these different arrangements are all just meant for Krishna's pleasure. Whether you stress the individual competition or you stress the team, how is the team doing? They're all just focused on Krishna's pleasure. If you forget that, then you're on the material platform. Yes? Daichari Hari?
Thanks for class. So you were mentioning in class that in the spiritual world, the different Cowherd boys have different levels of intimacy with Krishna.
Yes.
But each one of them is obviously fully satisfied in his relationship with Krishna.
Yes, I didn't say that, but you said it. Very good.
So?
So?
On the feel that from sometimes we can be dissatisfied with our position, like like, so how do we deal with that?
Give me an example.
Someone might be envious of someone else for having a more intimate relationship with someone else, or someone might be dissatisfied with their ability to do something that someone else can do.
Like what? Give me a specific example.
Like,
Don't beat around the bush. Come on. Who's doing what Hari wants to do? Come on. We're getting in the whale's groove now.
I don't like a tame example might be like someone might be able to do more books, or someone might be able to do just cook something better, or someone, just.
So then you appreciate, and you try to improve. Envy means you try to drag the person down or minimize their glories. Oh, so-and-so, you say so-and-so cooked a wonderful pizza, but actually the truth is that Mishirani did it all. You try to minimize, the Prabhu's glories. That's envy. Appreciation, spiritual appreciation means, what a wonderful pizza this devotee made. I should, first of all, thank him for it, and if I'm going to be a cook, I should try for that same standard. So in this way, Krishna's service increases. What do you think? Is it so difficult to glorify others and learn from others? Just like for so many years, London ignored Wales. Like, they would just make jokes. Mountain people. Who takes them seriously? But in the past 2 years, I noticed a huge shift. Wales, yeah, it's really happening there. One devotee, and so even one of the leading devotees told me, Wales is our model. Of course, you all are so accustomed to not having attention paid to you, so it's kind of a unique feeling, and all of a sudden the spotlight's starting to shine on you. What's going on there? So you have to remain humble, but you didn't have to worry about that before because no one cared. That's another universe. They would say to me, "Why do you go to Wales?" Now the tune is changing due to the decades of devotion by the senior devotees here. Anything else? Vaishnavis, no questions? Yamanuja, no questions. Yes?
We hear about these associates of these Cowherd boys in Caitanya Lila come out as devotees of Lord Nityananda. So
There's Cowherd boys in Krishna Lila.
when they come into Caitanya Lila, they're devotees of Lord Nityananda.
Mhm.
Are they devotees of Lord Balaram in Krishna Lila in the same way?
Are they devotees?
Yeah, does it mirror some relationship in Krishna Lila that they have with Balaram? Or
Balaram is in friendship with a tinge of parental love. He's 2 weeks older than Krishna. Is that what you're
I
referring
just
to?
wonder, they're devotees of Lord Nityananda, so does that mean then Krishna Lila that they are devotees of Lord Balaram? Or is the relationship different in
They
between
can
the two?
be associates of Balaram, but Balaram's associated with all the Cowherd boys. So I don't exactly understand what you're getting at. Balaram's part of the group, He sometimes orders Krishna. Krishna, you stay at home today, don't go to the forest. Or Krishna, come to the forest with me. Balaram has his own set of gopis. And he has his Rasa Lila in a different spot than Krishna's Rasa Lila. Yes. Ganga Gopal.
I just wondered, how does the chanting of Gayatri and worship of deities helps to nullify offenses?
It's one of the practices of bhakti, and everything in bhakti is meant to purify our consciousness. So why are you singling out those two practices amongst all the other practices? What is in your mind?
I'm trying to trying to learn more about them.
About what?
I'm trying to educate myself about the meaning of chanting Gayatri.
Well, there are so many books describing that. It's there in books Shiva Maharaj has written. Otherwise, certainly there's a ample description in Caitanya Caritamrita, Madhya Lila. But don't forget, your main focus is chanting Hare Krishna. If you can't chant Hare Krishna properly, Gayatri Mantra won't save you. You can go back to Godhead without the Gayatri Mantra, but you can't go back to Godhead without the Hare Krishna Mantra. The deities are there to receive our service through parampara. So you have Gaurnitai here. And the goal in the future, how's the deity carving going in Jaipur?
It's going. Yeah, we started. We passed the drawing stage. It's starting to carve now.
So that's the future hope. Any targeted year of possibility?
Should be by the end of this year. It'll be complete.
But I mean, for installation.
End of next year.
End of next year. What are their names going to be?
We haven't done that.
So already Krishna is here as Sri Sri Gaurnitai. And Gaurnitai is especially worshipped by chanting and dancing. So Sunday, tomorrow evening, between 3 and 5, we have a program. So it'll be chanting and dancing and jumping.
Even the Gopal jump.
Oh, Gopal is back. Hare Krishna. You ready for action? Anything? Yes?
Considering that the devotee doesn't like to be glorified, how do we...
Let's be for real here. In general, devotees, they do like to be glorified. But as you become more advanced, you realize that the glory is due not to you. So let's not assume the attitude of, well, you're a devotee, Bamsi Vilasi, so you don't. We know you don't like to be glorified. Let's put you down. That's a real demonstration of Vaishnava relationships. Because you don't like to be glorified. So let's tell you how lousy you are. Sometimes there's that kind of syndrome, you know. So, yes, what?
So, yeah, I was wondering, or sometimes even if maybe internally they like to be glorified, externally they would actually show display.
Of course, yeah, externally, yeah, we have to keep up a good front. Someone says something, Gangeya, it's so wonderful having you here, and then you give an external answer. I'm so fallen, I don't deserve to be here. But inside you're thinking something else, right? Thank you, Prabhu, for noticing my glories. Right?
So how are we supposed to glorify in a nice way.
Factual glories, not inflated glories. Someone who gave their all in the marathon, you could glorify that, but don't. It's no credit if you make up things. Like some devotee recites one of the 2 Bhagavad Gita verses that he knows, and what do you say? Oh, you're a pandit. That's inflated glorification. Okay. Someone else had their hand up here. Oh, Premaras. Yes.
Maharaj, you were talking about how the Gopas, when they saw Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill, they wanted to lift it instead of him.
Yes.
And I always wondered, is the reason that they thought that they could because they felt equal to Krishna?
Yes. We're as good as him.
Yeah.
Sometimes you read in Bhagavatam, the cowherd boys would start speculating. They see Krishna do something amazing, and then they would start thinking, who is he? Who is our friend Krishna? Maybe he's a demigod. But you know what that means? That means we're demigods too, because we're just as good as him. So this is why Nectar Devotion says that the special intimate flavors begin with Sakyaras and then deepen through parental love and culminate in Madhurya-ras, conjugal love. Because this flavor of we're just as good as him shows closeness, it shows intimacy. You're no big man at all. We can do what you do. And when Krishna is present, the Priyanarmas, Sakas, the most confidential cowherd boys, they present Krishna's side of the argument with the gopis. They take Krishna's side. And when Krishna's not present, they switch. They take the gopi side. So all kinds of these loving intrigues are going on in Braja's Lila. You can spend eternity relishing all these different flavors and how they manifest. And then you have Gaur Lila. So how do you drink it all up? How it takes eternity, all of eternity, to drink all this nectar. Gaur Lila, Krishna Lila, Nityananda Lila, this. You just go on and on and on. Someone else had their hand up?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hi, Krishna.
Over the course of past lives, we acquire different inclinations, aversions, tendencies, etc. How do we understand how those are personal to us and that those aren't randomly acquired activities, if that makes any sense? Like, what makes that feature personal to us?
What feature? As you progress from lifetime to lifetime, you're interacting with the modes of material nature, which give you an artificial personality, artificial psychology, artificial body, in that you're not those characteristics, you're not the body. But through many lifetimes, you pick up all these different influences of material nature.
But do they not have those activities have a reflection, like a perverted reflection in the spiritual world? Obviously,
everything has its proper origin in the spiritual world, but the perverted reflection is in material life.
So what I'm saying is,
so flip what you're saying upside down. The purity is in the spiritual world. The impure reflection is in the material world. So there you are, going through the process of samsara. You know what that is?
Yeah.
And as you go through the process of samsara, you pick up various influences from the modes of material nature, which you think are you.
Yeah. So none of those are like the reflection in the spiritual world, there's no like connection. We can't say that there's.
Everything has a connection to the ultimate source, but in that source, everything is pure. In the material world, everything is impure. Just like boy-girl affairs. That's a reflection of Radha Krishna Lila. What's topmost in the spiritual world is the most abominable in the material world. So the more you truly understand the affairs of the spiritual world, the more you'll be repulsed by the perverted, corrupt imitations present in the material world. That's why it's stated in Caitanya Caritamrita, anyone who actually understands Radha Krishna Lila can never engage in material sense gratification. If you actually understand what the perfection is, there's no way you can settle for the trash of material relationships. So take what you're saying and flip it upside down. Got it? Mm-hmm. Very good. Yes. Thank you for coming.
I was wondering if you could clarify something. So I've heard.
I'll try.
I've heard about this from Rup, and I kind of understood it as we have a true identity, and with that comes a true relationship with Krishna. But you've also mentioned how we can aim for deeper levels of ras, of intimacy. So I was wondering, am I aiming to revive my eternal, genuine relationship with Krishna, or am I aiming for conjugal ras?
You're aiming to be the servant of Krishna through parampara. You're aiming to be the servant of Krishna's devotee. And then everything else comes in that way. Good you brought up that point, because something I forgot to mention. As Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out, servitorship to Gauranga is the gateway to all the other rasas. You serve Lord Chaitanya in dasya, and through that service to Lord Chaitanya as his servant, all whatever else you're entitled to, whatever you are or meant to be, that all opens up. So first focus on being the servant of Lord Chaitanya through parampara. And how do you focus on that? Wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the science of Krishna. You ready for that? Well, that's what I was doing when I first met you, right? I had no idea a Nikki would show up. You asked me a question after the program at Cardiff University. So just see, devotees went through so much endeavor to set up a program following Lord Chaitanya's order, acting as servants of Lord Chaitanya. We did the program, and then a lost soul shows up. So what was done to you, you do to others. Or become qualified to do for others. So you first focus on being the servant of Lord Chaitanya. And that'll take up most of your life, hopefully all your life. And through that conduit, anything higher that you're meant for, it'll come to you. Okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. And we see and we get perspective from the devotees and demigods towards Krishna Lila. What are they thinking when they're seeing Gaura Lila? And why is it important?
What are they thinking? They come disguised as human beings because they want to see Lord Chaitanya. That's why Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan mission is a universal phenomenon. It's not just Earth planet. Even when preceding the birth, the so-called birth of Lord Chaitanya, you see, Jagannath Mishra had this vision of the Dham of the Lord transferring to his mind and then to the mind of Sachi Devi. And she was seeing all kinds of heavenly demigods even before the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then when Mahaprabhu appeared, the Devatas would come disguised as human beings to see little Nimai. The wives of the demigods would come disguised as women and would gather around baby Nimai in the house of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi. So when Lord Chaitanya was touring South India, the demigods also would come disguised as human beings and take darshan. Lord Shiva would come and have confidential discussions with Lord Chaitanya in solitary places. So you're not just dealing with a little tiny earth affair. It's like, I think it was you who told me, or maybe it was someone else, that when they went to India this year with all the devotees, or maybe it was Amrita Tattva told me this, it just hit them that this Krishna consciousness thing is not just some tiny building in Wales. You're the one who told me that? Yeah. Like, wow. You become overwhelmed by the scale of bhakti, even in this age of Kali. So we are grateful eternally to Srila Prabhupada for making that global presence of bhakti possible. Yes, I remember. I was telling him the first time I went to India in '77. You guys got all the conveniences now, but back in '77, it would be guaranteed that you got sick, not just the Delhi belly, but jaundice, and you'd be slaughtered by mosquitoes, and traveling was so inconvenient. No mobile phones. You couldn't make any phone calls. You had to book a phone call hours in advance. You couldn't just get on the phone and make an airlines reservation. You had to go into the city, all the way from Mayapur to Calcutta, to make a booking and stand online outside the airline office. And even if you already had a booking, you had to confirm it right before the flight. Did that happen in your day?
Yeah.
Oh, what a hassle, right?
Yeah.
It was hellish. So anyway, I was thinking back to my first trip, February of '77, and I was just overwhelmed by the scale of what I was seeing. And it was fascinating to see, and it was much more back then than now. All the shops had names of Krishna, especially I remember seeing Samsara tires. You suddenly realize that this Krishna consciousness is not just one of something that goes on in a little building in a city in the Western world. You go to Mayapur and you see thousands of persons wandering around. You go to Vrindavan and you see the traffic jams of persons coming to Vrindavan to tour the holy places, visit the temples, and you start to feel very insignificant. Did you have that feeling? Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't dream of seeing things on such a scale, right? Yeah. You heard about it, but seeing is believing, right? And you start to get an idea of our debt to Srila Prabhupada. last question. You're moving your hand? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.